Seasteading has made some bold moves by signing an agreement with French Polynesia, and they have a pretty aggressive timeline. You don't want to miss hearing about this one. What's in the news with stories on everyone gets a trophy, forced solar panels, cop sex illegal, sports gambling, and Google employees protesting. Finally, an Ask Me Anything segment with questions on breaking laws to defend yourself, pollution in a voluntarist society, and drug war intellectual honesty. This episode is brought to you by ZenCash, a cryptocurrency that infuses privacy, anonymity, and security done right. Also brought to you by NordVPN, the fastest, easiest to use service to protect your online presence that I've ever seen.
Welcome to The Lava Flow, channeling the flow of information to the libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, voluntarist, and agorist community. Find us at thelavaflow.com. Here's your host, Roger Paxton.
Thank you for joining me this week. From the home of the longest-running lottery in the United States, this is the show that will bring you the people, places, and events that everyone in the Liberty Rebellion needs to know. You can catch me on Twitter at The Lava Flow Pod. This is episode 92, Floating Cities, and it's Thursday, May 21st, 2018, when there have already been more than 412 people killed by police this year, and the United States debt clock shows us at $21,181,350 million in debt. What's wrestling my jimmies this week? You're about to find out. Let's do it to it. If you've listened to this show for any amount of time, you know that I'm fascinated by projects that are happening to bring more freedom to people. Some of the best chances, as far as I can tell, are those that separate and congregate those who believe in freedom. Clearly, at this point in my life, I believe that the Free State Project is the best such project out there, and that's why I moved my family 1,500 miles to be a part of it. But there are many other projects out there that could give it a run for its money in the future, whether it be Liberland, Free Society, Seasteading, and others. But one of these came across my news desk a few days ago from CNBC that deserves a really close look, if for no other reason than it has more legs than the rest. A floating Pacific island is in the works with its own government, cryptocurrency, and 300 houses. The Floating Island Project plans to create offshore housing that uses its own currency and operates outside of government regulations. The project is a pilot program in partnership with the government of French Polynesia. A long-term vision for this project is hundreds of new countries floating on the ocean. This project is being put together by the Seasteading Institute and Blue Frontiers. Natalie Meza Garcia is a political scientist turned Seavangelist, her term for an evangelist in favor of living off the grid and on the ocean. The Seavangelist is a researcher for the Blue Frontiers and Seasteading Institute's highly anticipated Floating Island Project. She said, "Once we can see how this first island works, we will have a proof of concept to plan for islands to house climate refugees." The project is funded through philanthropic donations via the Seasteading Institute and Blue Frontiers, which sells tokens of the cryptocurrency Varion. The pilot island is expected to be completed by 2022 and cost up to $50 million in total. Guys, that's only 4 years from now. That's huge. This is really happening, and I can't believe it. Meza Garcia said, "There is significance to this project being trialed in the Polynesian Islands. This is the region where land is resting on coral and will disappear with rising sea levels." My favorite quote by her in this article, though, is this one. "If you don't want to live under a particular government, people will be able to take their house and float away to another island." Hell yes, sign me up. In what Meza Garcia describes as the long term, she envisions hundreds of new countries in the ocean. As well as offering a home for the displaced, the self-contained islands are designed to function as business centers that are beyond the influence of government regulation. This means there is stability outside of fluctuating geopolitical influences, trade issues, and currency fluctuations. It's the perfect incubator, she said. Now, it's an unapologetically libertarian concept. Governments under the floating island scheme would exist only as service providers, according to Meza Garcia, and the floating communities would self-govern. I've talked about seasteading before on this show, and I've followed it for a lot of years. I fell in love with the idea after reading the book Seasteading, How Floating Nations Will Restore the Environment, Enrich the Poor, cure the sick, and liberate humanity from politicians a couple of years ago. Now, if you haven't read this book, I highly encourage you to do so as soon as possible. It's one you must have on your bookshelf if you're serious about finding ways to live free. The last time we talked about one of these projects, it looked like Roger Vere's Free Society project had the leg up on the competition, but with this news, it looks like Seasteading may get there first. According to their website, they signed an agreement with the French Polynesian government in January of 2017, so they've been sitting on this and working on it for some time now. I love both of these ideas, so I'm thrilled to see them competing in a sense to see who's going to get there first and who's going to do it better. I'll be watching these super closely, as I always do, and I will continue to report to you guys any news that I find on these ideas and projects.
Have you subscribed to the Lava Flow on iTunes or any mobile device yet? Then what's wrong with you? Go to thelavaflow.com/subscribe so you don't miss a minute of the show. And while you're subscribing, make sure to leave me a 5-star rating and review the show to help others find our podcast. thelavaflow.com/subscribe.
It's time to shake up your podcast feed, folks, by subscribing to Lions of Liberty, the only libertarian variety show out there. Spend Mondays with me, Mark Claire, as I feature in-depth interviews with great names in the libertarian community and fun roundtable discussions.
Electric Liberty Land with me, Brian McWilliams, every Wednesday, your weekly dose of comedy, culture, and liberty.
And Felony Fridays with me, John Odermatt, where I expose injustice in the broken criminal justice system.
Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and at lionsofliberty.com.
What's in the news? The news you need to know from a libertarian perspective.
In Everyone Gets a Trophy news, a New Jersey high school is taking a new approach to cheerleading tryouts, and not all parents and cheerleaders are fans of the new policy. Under the new rules, everyone makes the squad, or no one does. According to News 12 New Jersey, some cheerleaders addressed officials at a Board of Education meeting May 2, 2018, expressing disappointment over the new team policy. The controversy began when cheerleading tryouts at Hanover Park High School in East Hanover, New Jersey, in April, where some cuts were made. When a parent complained about their child not being allowed on the team, the athletic director changed the policy to allow anyone who wants to be on the team to join. The school administration said that the change came due to an irregularity in the selection process. So some kids suck at cheerleading. They don't make the cut. So this kid's parent complains? What have we come to in this fucking country? The parent should have told the kid to do better at cheerleading if she wanted to make the team. End of story. Some parents told News 12 that they sent letters to the principal and athletic director complaining about the policy. The principal then threatened to disband the squad altogether, the parents said. So the principal makes a boneheaded decision, gets some pushback, and then basically says, fuck you. Welcome to public school where everyone is equal. Equally bad off, that is. Sounds a lot like socialism to me. In a statement, the school board said, in order to facilitate a more inclusive program, the alignment between the various cheerleading squads would be modified to allow all interested students to be able to participate. This decision was made in the best interest of all students and was made to be as inclusive as possible. As inclusive as possible. He may as well just say egalitarian. This is insanity. Look, some people are just not made to be cheerleaders. Those are just facts of genetics. Being a cheerleader requires a lot of physical demands that not everyone can meet. But at least no one's going to have to worry about this school making it to the cheerleading national championships this year. Look, get your kids out of these government indoctrination centers, folks. In Solar or Else news, a state board in California has approved a proposal to require solar panels on all new homes beginning in 2020, a measure that would increase the cost of new construction but provide savings on utilities, supposedly, and help the state meet ambitious targets for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. California would be the first state in the country with such a requirement, of course. Several cities, including San Francisco and South Miami, Florida, have residential solar panel requirements already. The new rule in California would cover all low-rise residential buildings, although homes that are frequently in the shade are exempt. It applies only to new construction. Sounds to me like construction folks need to start building trees around all these houses. Representatives from construction groups, public utilities, and solar manufacturers all spoke in support of the plan, which they've helped the commission develop for years, the Associated Press reports. No industry groups spoke in opposition, supposedly. But Republican legislation leaders argue that Californians can't afford to pay any more for housing in the state's already extremely expensive market. A report commissioned by the state found that the requirement will have an average upfront cost of $9,365 per home. Utility savings will balance out that cost over the long term, but the higher sales point will still hurt developers, real estate agents, and some home buyers. California has some of the highest housing costs in the country already, and it has a widespread housing shortage. Well, no shit. With policies like these being put in place by busybody bureaucrats who have no idea what the free market is, no wonder costs are so high and supply is so low. Free the market. Some reports show that the costs and benefits of the new requirement are somewhat disputed. One home builder estimates the cost of adding solar panels at up to $30,000 per home instead of under $10,000, 3 times the commission's estimate. And how much it will truly help fight climate change is also subject to debate, of course. Californians have no one to blame but themselves for this bullshit. Until Californians start leaving in droves to protest these insane policies, these things are going to continue. Vote with your feet and get the fuck out of Socialist Republic of California.
One cryptocurrency project that I'm most excited about right now is ZenCash, with privacy, anonymity, and security done right. You can read all about ZenCash at thelavaflow.com/zen. Now look, I've read a ton of white papers on crypto, and this is the first one I've read that mentioned voluntary and voluntarist not once but 7 times. These are our people, and they are on the right track to mix great technology, excellent marketing, and awesome uses for their product. These guys get it, and they understand what crypto is all about. Now this is a project, guys, that I believe in 100%. So much so that I have staked some of my own Zen to run a secure node on their network. So don't miss out on checking out this awesome project at thelavaflow.com/zen.
In Woe Was Me news, a new Kansas law makes it a crime for police to have sex with people they pull over for traffic violations or detained in criminal investigations. Wait, before this there was no law against such a thing in Kansas? What the actual fuck? The new law bans sexual relations during the course of a traffic stop, a custodial interrogation, an interview in connection with an investigation, or while the law enforcement officer has such persons detained. Kansas was one of 33 states where consensual sex between police and people in their custody wasn't a crime. 33 fucking states. Are you serious right now? That also came as a surprise to members of the House Judiciary Committee, who got the new law passed in a bundled bill with several other law enforcement measures. Governor Jeff Colyer signed it into law. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle embraced the change, saying it was long overdue. Yeah, I'd say so. Getting away with sex on the job would be a lot harder for police officers now because most stops are recorded on body cameras, said Representative John Whitmer, a Republican from Wichita. But he said it could happen, and it's good to have a law in place if it does. He said, most officers are great guys and women who are working hard, but there's always the one. Right. My ass. In one small step news, the United States Supreme Court struck down a federal law that prohibits sports gambling in a landmark decision that gives states the go-ahead to legalize betting on sports. The court ruled 6-3 to strike down the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, PASPA, a 1992 law that barred state-authorized sports gambling with some exceptions. It made Nevada the only state where a person could wager on the results of a single game. States that want to offer legal sports betting may now do so, and New Jersey plans to be the very first. Delaware, Mississippi, New York, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia are among the states expected to quickly get into the legal bookmarking game. The court ruled in favor of New Jersey and against the NCAA, NFL, NBA, NHL, and Major League Baseball, capping a nearly 6-year legal battle and overturning a federal statute that the sports leagues had adamantly stood by for more than 20 years. The court wrote in its opinion, Congress can regulate sports gambling directly, but if it elects not to do so, each state is free to act on its own. Well, I disagree that Congress can regulate that, but that's a different story. Our job is to interpret the law Congress has enacted and decide whether it's consistent with the Constitution. PASPA is not. The impact will be widespread. For nearly 26 years, Nevada has been the only state allowed to offer a full menu of sports betting options. A record $4.8 billion was wagered at Nevada sports books in 2017 alone. New Jersey, with its much larger population, is expecting even bigger things. So are other states, with more than a dozen having introduced sports betting bills this year. The U.S. joins other jurisdictions that allow legal sports betting, including Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, and France. To start, it's likely that bets will have to be placed at brick-and-mortar establishments, but states are making plans to offer mobile sports betting in the future. One research firm estimated before the ruling that if the Supreme Court were to strike down PASPA, 32 states would likely offer sports betting within 5 years. The American Gaming Association estimates that Americans illegally wager about $150 billion on sports each year. I mean, this is just a no-brainer. No one accidentally bets on a sports game. This is nothing more than consenting adults doing what they want with their own money. It's good to see SCOTUS get one right for a change, although it seems to be the exception and not the rule. Happy betting, folks.
Are you looking for a way to protect your online presence quickly, easily, and inexpensively while still surfing the net with high speed? Well, NordVPN is the best way that I've ever found to do just that. With over 2,500 servers worldwide, they cover every continent except Antarctica. But, as they say, that's only because penguins just don't get the internet. They also offer double data encryption, which encrypts data not once, but twice. And they never log what you do and where you go on the internet. Also, NordVPN is fast, the fastest VPN service that I've ever used. They have apps for Windows, Mac, iOS, and Android, so you can protect all of your traffic from all of your devices with NordVPN. Starting as low as $3.29 per month, they're also inexpensive, and they take Bitcoin too. With NordVPN, you can securely access any website from anywhere around the world, safely share files via P2P networks, and enjoy the fastest VPN experience without compromising your online security and privacy. Get signed up for the VPN service that I personally use every time I hit the internet at thelavaflow.com/VPN. Again, that's thelavaflow.com/VPN. In some folks still have integrity news, around a dozen Google employees have quit over the company's involvement in an artificial intelligence drone program for the Pentagon called Project Maven, Gizmodo reports. Meanwhile, nearly 4,000 workers have now demanded an end to the company's participation in Maven in a petition that also calls for Google to avoid military work in the future. Project Maven seeks to help the military analyze drone footage faster through machine learning as the AI detects people and objects for human review. Those who resigned from Google cited ethical concerns over the use of AI in drone operations and the company's broader involvement in political and military spheres. Google recently sponsored the Conservative Political Action Conference, for instance. Some claim that Google is increasingly less transparent with employees about contentious decisions and seems less concerned about objections from staffers than it used to be. One employee who left Google told Gizmodo, "I wasn't happy just voicing my concerns internally. The strongest possible statement I could make against this was to leave." Opposition to Maven seems to be growing inside Google. As of about a month ago, around 3,100 employees had signed the petition. Approximately 5.4% of the workforce have now voiced their concern. Yet Google is forging ahead with Maven, noting that because the technology used in the project is open source, the military could use it regardless of the company's direct involvement. Some of the employees who have resigned and the petitioners claim Maven runs contrary to Google's ethos. The mantra, "Don't be evil," has long been at the heart of Google's principles. The company has insisted that the AI is not being used for combat operations, but its involvement has still upset many within its ranks. Meanwhile, AI and ethics academics who are supporting the petition also want Google to back a treaty banning autonomous weapon systems, and suggested that Google's obligations extend beyond America's interests as they're tied to a global user base. Google hasn't had the ethos of "don't be evil" in quite a long time. That's for damn sure. And this is just more proof of that. I stopped using Google for email and search long ago.
At this point, I rarely use a Google product, for good reasons. This is just yet another good reason to stop using Google. In some show news, it's still contest time. Barely. I'm giving away some free codes for free copies of the Audible audiobook Neither Bullets Nor Ballots, Essays on Voluntaryism by Carl Watner, Wendy McElroy, and George H. Smith. You can purchase a copy of the audiobook at thelavaflow.com/nbnbaudio. Now I'm giving away a bunch of these audiobooks for free, and there are a few different ways you can get your copy today. First, if you're a current supporter of the show, I will send you a free code to get this book if you upgrade your support of the show by at least $1 per episode by June 1st. This is not a drawing or anything. If you upgrade your support, you get the book. It's really that simple. Secondly, if you're not a supporter of the show already, but you've been considering it, if you become a supporter of at least $1 per episode prior to June 1st, then you also get a free copy of this audiobook. Again, no drawing. Simple. You become a supporter, you get the free book. So to either upgrade your support or begin your new support, go to thelavaflow.com/support now, and you'll get your book. Thirdly, if you want to enter a drawing to win one of 5 codes for this free book, that's easy as well and won't cost you a single penny. All you have to do is leave the show a review on Apple Podcasts at thelavaflow.com/Apple. Then send me an email to feedback@thelavaflow.com with a screenshot of you leaving the review. Again, this will have to be done prior to June 1st to be entered in the drawing. The drawing will be on June 1st, and the winners will be announced on the show after the date. I've already given away a bunch of these, so get in on it now before I run out of free codes. So go now to either thelavaflow.com/support or thelavaflow.com/Apple and get your chance to win your free audiobook today. Do it now or you run the risk of forgetting to do it and missing out on your chance to get this awesome book with amazing narration by yours truly. Good luck in the contest, guys, and thanks.
Exercise your free market muscles by going to thelavaflow.com/support and giving a per episode donation of as little as $1 an episode. Or use Bitcoin. Get exclusive content, rewards, and help the Lava Flow become fiscally neutral while providing you more content. thelavaflow.com/support.
This is Chris Spangle, and I am the host of We Are Libertarians, which you can find in iTunes, Google Play, or at wearelibertarians.com. We are a podcast that brings you all of the irreverence that modern politics deserves by examining current events from a libertarian perspective. So please, check us out at wearelibertarians.com.
Ask me anything. Roger will answer your questions about, well, anything. Do you have a question for Roger? Email AMA@thelavaflow.com or add your question to the latest AMA thread in the Pax Libertas Productions Facebook group.
It's that time again where I answer your burning questions. I still had quite a few questions in the queue, so I'm going to jump right into these. Mark K. asks, would you advocate that a felon get black powder revolvers for defense to comply with the law? Or break the unjust law restricting their rights and carry a modern firearm? This is a tough question, and I really can't answer it for everybody. I can only answer it for myself, since everybody's circumstances will be different. But if I were barred the use of a gun to defend myself and my family, I would break that law without question and without hesitation. It's an immoral and illegal law, so I would have no issue breaking it. While it would be a big risk to do that, because I could face certain jail if caught with it, I would rather that happen than be caught in a situation where I had to defend my life and the life of my family and not have a way of doing so. Keep in mind, though, this is not legal advice in any way. I do believe in civil disobedience and ignoring unjust laws, and this is one of those. But it's one with a major consequence that many are not willing to face. I get that completely. If you're going to make a decision like this, I recommend doing it very carefully. Only going to places that have a low likelihood of police presence, for example. Follow all traffic laws very carefully if you're driving with it. Basically, be as anonymous and law-abiding as possible when carrying your weapon so you're not looked at twice by police. Always be vigilant. Thanks for the question, Mark. Brian of the Oregon Voluntarists asks, in a voluntarist society, I understand property rights and arbitration will be used, but we have real examples in India and China, which I understand have governments, where the air pollution is so bad that people are having real health issues. Surely the Chinese or Indian citizens could sue the companies today, but nothing has stopped this. How or why would that be different in a free market, voluntarist society? You know, Braun, it's precisely because these areas have governments that the air pollution is so bad. China, India, and many other countries, including the U.S., protect and harbor companies that produce pollution every single day. This would not be allowed in a voluntarist society. A person or a group of people would have every right and ability to sue companies for such encroachment of their private property. And in a voluntary society, every bit of land, sea, and air would be someone's private property. Instead, in today's statist society, governments protect polluters and allow them to pollute ad nauseum. And this is not even to mention that the number one worst polluter on planet Earth is the United States government itself. I shit you not. State and local governments are also among the nation's worst polluters. In Georgia, for example, an investigation found that the state and county governments are Georgia's worst polluters. In fact, over the last decade, dozens of county governments have racked up a total of more than $14 million in pollution fines, and the Georgia state government itself is a major hazard to the environment too, with the Georgia Department of Transportation and its contractors alone racking up $1.3 million in pollution fines. And guess who paid every penny of those fines? Yep, the taxpayers. Yet even as awful as many state and local governments throughout the country are, the federal government is still by far the worst polluter. And despite never-ending plans, promises, and programs from every administration to get its pollution under control, remember the Environmental Protection Agency was started over 40 years ago in 1970 by a Republican, the pollution just keeps getting worse with no end in sight. Now, this could be in part because military spending and activity, especially after 9/11, just keeps expanding with no end in sight. While the federal government is the world's worst polluter, the Department of Defense alone actually pollutes more than the rest of the federal government combined. Yet environmentalist activism directed against the government's pollution is virtually non-existent. As ProjectCensored.org reported, the U.S. military is responsible for the most egregious and widespread pollution of the planet, yet this information and accompanying documentation goes almost entirely unreported. In spite of this evidence, the environmental impact of the U.S. military goes largely unaddressed by environmental organizations and was not the focus of any discussion or proposed restrictions at the recent UN Climate Change Conference in Copenhagen. This impact includes uninhibited use of fossil fuels, massive creation of greenhouse gases, and extensive release of radioactive and chemical contaminants into the air, water, and soil. In 2005, Lucinda Marshall, founder of the Feminist Peace Network, wrote that the U.S. Department of Defense produces more hazardous waste than the 5 largest U.S. chemical companies combined. From cancer-causing depleted uranium ammunition and armor, to perchlorate rocket fuel leaking from literally hundreds of military plants and installations into the groundwater of 35 U.S. states, to the military's unquenchable thirst for fossil fuels, the Department of Defense is polluting our environment more than anyone else in the world. So the best way to end pollution is to simply end government. Period. Let's work hard to make that happen. Thanks for the question, Braun. And finally, Sean asks, when talking about guns, Sweden, Britain, Australia, and Japan are thrown around as evidence of a war on guns working. We as libertarians often refute their evidence by bringing into play cultural factors that could be the case of this working to lessen gun violence. For the sake of intellectual honesty, why are we allowed to use Portugal and Switzerland as a case for ending the war on drugs? I'd love to hear your insight. Love the show. Thanks, Sean. First of all, it's easy to refute the argument that the countries you mentioned are examples of evidence of the war on guns working. There are a ton of articles and stats out there that pretty much show they're all dismal failures. There's no need to refer to their cultural factors at all. I've actually never seen a libertarian make the case that it's an issue of cultural factors, but it seems you have. I can't speak to that. But we are allowed to use Portugal and Switzerland in cases for successfully ending the war on drugs for one simple reason. Because they are examples of successfully ending the war on drugs, and really good examples. Portugal had a massive drug problem after the Carnation Revolution and before the decriminalization of drugs in the country. They tried battling it for decades with a traditional drug war as they learned from watching the U.S. They realized how much of a failure that was, so they reversed course, and things are so much better in many ways in that country because of it. Drug addicts are not treated as criminals. They're treated as people who need help. Drug use has plummeted since the new laws in the country. Drug-induced deaths have dropped dramatically. HIV infection rates have also dropped dramatically. It's an unqualified success. As for Switzerland, its results are very similar to those seen in Portugal, and their culture is clearly completely different in Switzerland. So I feel culture had little to do with these results. It was the decriminalization that affected the results, period. If it were culture, changing laws would have little to no effect. Thanks for the question, Sean. Thank you for listening to the show this week. As always, I need to thank my favorite PorkFest producer, Jessica, for her help with this show. For the show notes to this episode, where I put links and other information that's been on this show, go to thelavaflow.com/92. I have a new supporter this week. Sedgis B supported the show at the $2.50 per episode level using Patreon. Thank you so much, Sedgis. That is awesome. Also had supporter Derek S. upgrade his pledge from $1 per episode to $2.50 per episode using Patreon. Derek, you rock. Thanks so much. Thanks to Seasteading, Derek, and all of my awesome supporters, I'm at $258 per episode, or 51.6% of the way towards my next goal of $500. Thank you for all your support, guys. Remember, when I hit this next goal, I will be upping the content I bring you from half an hour per week to a full hour. I know you want more content from me, and I want to give it to you. So add your pledge today to help me bring you twice the lava flow that you're getting today. So exercise your free market muscles by going to thelavaflow.com/support and giving a per episode donation of as little as $1 an episode using Federal Reserve notes through Patreon or Bitcoin through Coinbase. I want to be able to bring you more content soon, so make sure to add your donation today to help make that happen. I also have 2 new Apple Podcast reviews this week. Mr. D.C. Smith said, "From classical liberal to complete anarchist. You guys know the old joke, what's the difference between a libertarian and an anarchist? Well, with Roger's help, it only takes 6 weeks instead of 6 months, if not less. A must-listen for the most savage amongst us." Wow. I mean, Mr. DC, that's just a great review. I really appreciate that. That's awesome. I'm always amazed at the number of emails, messages, and reviews I get that credit me and my content with converting someone else to libertarian anarchism. It's amazing, and I'm always glad that I can help. Something or other, I don't know how to pronounce this, it's just a bunch of letters. Anyway, this person said, "Open your mind. I accidentally stumbled on this podcast, but now I'm hooked. I'd always thought of myself as a closet libertarian, but Roger's fantastic content has made me confident and activated in spreading the message of personal freedom and the liberty revolution. Every podcast Roger does is so well researched as well as being entertaining and informative." I mean, holy crap, I couldn't ask for a better review. Thanks so much. You know, I put a lot of work into carefully writing every single one of these episodes, so it's always great when somebody acknowledges and understands that. I really appreciate it. If you have a minute and you want to hear your review on this show, go to thelavaflow.com/Apple and leave me a rating and a review. All the cool kids are doing it. Thank you to everyone who has left me a rating and a review so far. You guys honestly rock. To all of you who haven't, can you guys help me out and go leave a review for me? Go to thelavaflow.com/Apple to do that now. Until next time, keep striking the root.
Thank you for listening to The Lava Flow at thelavaflow.com. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe now at thelavaflow.com/subscribe. This has been a Pax Libertas Productions podcast.